But anyhow, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm so done with this subject. And I just want to move on to stuff that's really important and relevant. And, what's been all over the Alex Jones channel is something I'd like to talk about now. And Alex Jones did an interview with this guy, David Duke, who is famously or infamously, I know the people that love him and follow him refer to him as Dr. David Duke. I think that he has in the past, I don't know where he's at now, but he has in the past been associated with the KKK. But I'm not going to go into that because I am not knowledgeable on that. But I know that there was a video purportedly that Alex didn't share on his channel. It was video that he got of the interview, the debate with David Duke. And it may have gotten really ugly, and it may have gotten so ugly Alex didn't want it shown. But all David Duke's followers on the comments on YouTube, they are really, really deriding him and really giving Alex a hard time for his views. And it hurts. It really does. Again, in each of us, as all of us, I feel the pain of Alex Jones and his entire crew. I feel that. And, this is why it's so important. I just thank God that, he's kept me on my knees in the Bible and introspective and really trying to understand the big picture and finding some semblance of peace in a world that's so full of strife. And this is why I've latched on to teaching love your enemy. And it's so important that all of us show mercy and grace to one another. This comes from above. This is what God gives us. So as we know we need His mercy and grace, so also we must embrace that and reflect that and offer it to others to be good representative reflections of His goodness and to offer the things that are really important to people, things that we have been gifted from above. Okay, because that's where really all good things come from. And our very happiness comes from above, okay? It's as simple as that this is the giver of happiness. This is our creator. It's not about us, never about us. It's not about how famous you are, rich you are, who you are, okay? It's not about who I am. It's about who the creator is and glorifying God and thanking God for everything good in our lives. And saying, God, I want to be happier. What are the stumbling blocks? So I've got to love my enemy. I've got to purify my evil heart. I want to see better days. I want peace on earth. I want humanity to get along with each other. I want the very best for everybody. Those very same things I wish for myself and my children, my most beloved friends and family, strangers, all of you. I wish for everybody. That's who we've got to wish these things. We've got to want for humanity what the Father wants for humanity. That's our owner. That's our creator. And so we have to really, first and foremost, we've got to care about God's opinion about our thoughts. Those things, those thoughts we harbor and cherish. Thank God for your imagination. Thank God for putting compassion in your heart and love and mercy and caring about people. These are the things we could be grateful about. Thank God for your imagination, your ability to imagine a better world and to think and to say, what can I do to share what I know with others and try to work toward a better world? And that's why I'm always getting into economic issues. And most people have heard this term, and I haven't looked it up for a while, and it's called the law of diminishing returns. And as soon as I get home, I'm going to try to remember to look that up. But I thought of a term that's kind of its equal, though opposite. And this is the law of perpetual expansion of prosperity and the law of supply and demand, and how it's correlated. I'll get the title more succinctly. Okay, but this is what I want to explain about supply and demand. It's all really simple. And I need say no more than if you just study what's happened to the VCR dollar. Okay, what I mean by the VCR dollar is think of your dollar relative to every commodity okay, out there available. And when you let's leave services, because those are the only two expenses we have. We're either spending our money on commodities or services. It's that simple. So let's put services on the back burner, because the first thing that changes in our economic world is the cost of commodities. That's your cost of living typically. Not always your cost of living, because if the commodities involve luxury items, non-essential human needs, they're really not that important. So a VCR, in all fairness, is a non-essential human need. Now, the question I have for people to help them to think, to inspire and provoke thought, is to ask themselves why what has happened to the VCR dollar has not happened to, for example, my housing dollar. Ask yourself that question, and you will realize the reason. And the reason is because housing is an essential human need, and it's been able to be manipulated for that very reason. And that very reason is what makes it so utterly, unequivocally objectionable in my view. This idea that, well, we've done this, we've manipulated the cost of housing because we can, because it's an essential human need, because there's no difference than using that justification for manipulating the price of potable water or food, because they're essential human needs. See, shelter is a fundamental basic human need that we instinctively as human beings seek. Every creature does, and we have a physical nature. We do have that animal biology we've got to contend with. And part of contending with that is finding shelter. So no government or no private entity out there can tell you you don't have a right to exist on the face of the earth. That's evil, and that is persecution. It's ungodly. And even if you do that in your heart a little bit, if you're just a little bit elitist and you just think somehow there must be some rationalization, some justification, and that person is less than me, they're dying out on the street, but they're a stupid, foolish drug addict, they're just weak, they're mentally ill, they're an alcoholic, they got PTSD. There's some reason why in your mind you want to justify it, then you're evil and you're on your way to hell. Okay, anybody that's living outside of the golden rule is going to hell. It's that simple. Okay, that's why, I talk about, landlords, focus on lowering your rents and setting a whole new trend in the other direction. I mean, do something good. Do something that's going to work. Stop being a part of this snake eating its tail, because that's all this is. We got the government out there subsidizing housing prices by, these Section 8 and all this, making the problem exponentially worse. It's crazy. And then we want to blame the welfare recipients. I mean, hey, maybe I'll title this video, "Will the Real Welfare Recipient Please Stand Up?" Because it's going in the pockets of the landlords. It's and everybody else involved in that industry, which includes real estate agents, it includes the lending institutions, it includes all the builders and contractors and developers, all those people, the gentrifiers. All these people are profiting from this industry, all right? And then you got the government in there. Why does the government want to manipulate the cost of housing upward? The cost of shelter, an essential human need. Why would governments do that? Because they get a bigger tax base. The higher the property goes, the more taxes they make. I mean, they've just been manipulating the markets and price fixing. That's what it is. Collusion of different special interest groups. This is what this is, which amounts to fascism. They're just, all these groups say, hey, we're all profiting and benefiting, so that's good. How can you say that's not good? I'll sue you if you take away my profits now. So they got an interest in the problems. It's like the poverty industrial complex. So with all this new created poverty, we've got all these other issues we got to contend with. High crime rates, dubious warfare, debt, and all these things. Now there's an interest in maintaining the problems. Do you see how this works? And why the idea of true capitalism, supply and demand capitalism, free market stuff, is such a radical notion that cannot be tolerated. This is what people don't understand. Because the people in the know it is a means to an end. That really, if it was allowed to work, it would lead to an ideal society. It would lead to an economic utopia, okay? Because people would be, there'd be full prosperity. Okay, it would be no big deal to be prosperous. Okay, to use any boat you want. I mean, look, you can't use it all the time. To live in any house you want, anywhere in the world, at any time you want. These are not radical ideas. This is the world we can have now because there's vacant housing in every city all around the world and in the country. Vacant shelters of every sort all over the world. That's a world we could have right now without going out there and building a bunch of new sailboats or jet planes or, cruise ships or whatever it is that you want or need. All of us can have those things today. The only difference is that the money doesn't have to be such a relevant factor. If we had sound currency, if JFK had gotten his way, people got to understand, we'd have full prosperity in America. Such a tiny bit of crime, just a few perverts out there causing trouble, people that would drunk drive or do something really foolish that, we would all condemn. It's not okay to do foolish things on a public highway. Maybe we need more racetracks for people to act foolish on, where they can kill themselves if that's what they want to do, where they're going to not hurt innocent people. But, there would be very little crime. There'd be absolutely no debt if we had full prosperity. That's axiomatic, as they say, self-evident. And then, the dubious war. I mean, who's going to... Look, if everybody around the world is prosperous and secure and free, there's not going to be these issues. Okay, well, weapons someday, they're going to be a non-issue. Even though I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, I still get it. I hate violence. And so, anything can be used as a weapon. I mean, a sword, a hammer, your fist. I mean, all these things can be lethal. A rock. So, it's not just guns. It's just violence is wrong. And what does it say in the book of Isaiah? That someday men will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. And that would include guns too. Is that someday we're going to render them utterly useless. We're not going to care about them anymore. And that state will come when we understand that, prosperity, universal, full prosperity around the world need to have absolutely nothing to do with money. It's that simple. Money is a concept. And it's been sold to human beings as this idea that, no, it makes sense. It's to facilitate exchange, which sounds like a very innocent concept. But really it's not, because look what it's turned into. It's turned into a monster. You understand? It got JFK's brains blown out. Okay, that's what this was all about. JFK, I mean, of all the people, if you ask Cui Bono, who benefits, I mean, he was taking active steps. He was signing a law, Executive Order 11,110. Look it up. He was going to abolish the Federal Reserve Bank. He was already issuing currency, even as a little boy, 5 years old. I remember the silver notes, the ones and the fives, they looked almost like the other dollars. I remember it, they were a little different. And people were preferring them. They were starting to grasp the concept of sound currency that, had checks and balances, that had accountability. And that we were understanding that, what happened to the VCR, okay, as we look back, that's a very good thing. And if that had happened, could you imagine where it would be today? That's how it would have set us free. Okay, that's how sound currency, capitalism, supply and demand, free market would set humanity free. Gradually, very gently, so it wasn't such a shock to the system. But it forces the hand of the evil people, all those that would keep you in captivity, that would subjugate humanity, just regular people, just average people. Because remember, people working for minimum wage aren't stupid people, they're not lazy people, and a lot of these people are fast learners, so any one of them can take your job, okay? So, let's always remember that about low-paid workers, that human beings are dynamic. Any one of us can learn anything, okay? I tell you what, just try to drive a 0-point turn lawnmower for the first time. The first time you do it, it's going to be very awkward, cumbersome, and scary, okay? But after a few times, it's just second nature. Your brain barely needs you to think about what your arms are doing. You're just doing it. It comes very naturally. It's the same way I figure if I was a co-pilot in a jet plane. I mean, a jet fighter, like my idea, going up in the sky and videotaping these pilots, see if there's even live pilots in them. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'm a quick learner. I could learn how to do that. I'd love to. I think, and the nice thing about a fighter jet is you got an ejection seat. So if you ever have, something goes awry, then you can get the heck out of there. But I digress, and I knew I was gonna today. But you know, it's not easy being human. It's really tough, but we've really got to understand just how we've been brainwashed, how we've been indoctrinated, trained, taught, and you know, brainwashed into trusting in a system that's not trustworthy. We can't. It is a snake eating its tail. It cannot.